Ms. Poh Li San.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I wish to express my sincere thanks to all the members who had participated enthusiastically in this debate and to my fellow colleagues who had listened so patiently to all our speeches. I also wish to thank the Young PAP's Climate Change Policy team for putting together the second climate change paper, which captured comprehensive views and suggestions from the businesses and civil society groups. Members of this House have spoken extensively on wide-ranging topics pertaining to green financing, carbon trading and carbon tax, green jobs and corporate accountability. They have shared many valuable viewpoints and practical recommendations. Let me attempt to do a recap here, which can be broadly organized into three main groups of proposals raised by the 19 MPs who spoke in this debate. Firstly, to develop Singapore as the regional hub for sustainability-related services and products that will also lower our own carbon footprint, Ms. Nadia Samdin suggested that publishing a guide on firms that do well in reducing emissions. Professor Koh Lian Pin, Ms. He Ting Ru, and Associate Professor James Lim highlighted the concerns of greenwashing and the regulatory role of the government to protect consumer interests. Mr. Don Wee, Mr. Derek Goh, Ms. Mariam Jaafar, Mr. Henry Kwek, and Mr. Gan Thiam Poh proposed to develop Singapore as the carbon exchange marketplace for the region and building on our carbon marketplace Impact X. Mr. Liang Eng Hua and Mr. Gan Thiam Poh called for Singapore to be developed as a green finance hub of the region. And to support this goal, more government green bonds to finance sustainability projects should be issued, and tax exemptions for green finance products should be extended to companies. Mr. Don Wee, Ms. Nadia, and Ms. He Ting Ru highlighted the need to develop international standards for sustainability reporting and accounting and build local capability in these areas by working with associations and companies. There should also be a national accountability strategy and think tank on sustainability administration. Ms. Fumi Ha and Ms. Nadia further highlighted the need to support SMEs with more guidance such as pre-identified green solutions and increase awareness of green loans and grants, especially for small firms. And looking beyond our jurisdiction, Prof. Koh Lian Pin and I spoke about how the International Carbon Trading Framework, as agreed at COP26, and carbon offset credits can help us achieve a win-win strategy together with our neighboring countries to fund renewable energy projects and environment conservation. Secondly, on the topic of carbon tax, several members spoke about how we can further balance sustainability and business concerns in levying the carbon tax. Mr. Edward Chia, Ms. Mariam, and Mr. Louis Ng push for more support to transform business practices so that carbon tax does not end up as a pass-through cost, resulting in higher cost of living. In addition, Mr. Gerald Giam and Ms. Mariam Jaafar also called for the government to invest in sustainability technology innovation to help companies transform their businesses, becoming more sustainable and competitive. Also, to ensure the lower-income groups are not disadvantaged, Mr. Edward Chia and Mr. Louis Ng suggested providing rebates to lower-income families to cushion the impact of carbon tax. Mr. Louis Ng, Ms. Fumi Ha, Mr. Derek Goh, and Mr. Sakyandi call for an increase in carbon tax so as to nudge firms towards more sustainable practices. They also opine that a tiered carbon tax regime being fairer, as companies with lower emissions will pay a lower rate. Ms. Fumi Ha and Mr. Sakyandi also urged the government to give business ample notice on how the carbon tax will change. Also, they emphasized the need to equalize carbon tax treatment for Singapore-based businesses and foreign businesses importing to Singapore. Third, but perhaps most importantly, to ensure Singaporeans can seize the opportunities of the green economy in an inclusive manner, members spoke about how we can equip Singaporeans of all backgrounds and ages to take advantage of these opportunities in the new green economy. Mr. Henry Kwek, Ms. Rachel Ong and I spoke about the importance of sustainability, R&D and training. We also spoke about the close collaboration with industry and skills future roadmap for sustainability-related sectors, and having more internships and on-the-job training in the sustainability sector. Mr. Kwek, Mr. Dennis Tan, Mr. Liang Yinghua and I emphasized the importance of inclusiveness to train Singaporeans of all backgrounds and ages, including mature PMETs, to seize new opportunities in the sustainability sector. And finally, Ms. Hanny So and Ms. Rachel Ong are also strong proponents of green entrepreneurship and encourage startups in this sector. Now, to sum up this debate, I would like to turn the spotlight on two key phrases in our motion: inclusive transition and low-carbon society. In the course of our discussion, the emphasis so far has very much been on what to do and how to do. In order for our transition to a low-carbon society to be truly inclusive, we need everyone, from the man in the street to the most senior policy maker, to share a common understanding of climate change and sustainability. In particular, how climate change affects our country and what are the trade-offs for us. Everyone perceives the sustainability elephant in a different way, somewhat like the situation in the parable where the blind man touched the various parts of an elephant. For mitigation measures to succeed, we should have a clear and holistic understanding of the precarious situation our island state is in. With a full understanding, each of us will have a greater sense of urgency and motivation to do what is needed. Our people need to understand why we need to take action, why we would need to compromise in specific areas, why certain sacrifices have to be made, and what assistance will be provided to those whose livelihoods have been affected. Measures to ensure environmental as well as economic sustainability must be well thought through, communicated, and understood by all quarters of the society. Then we can all embark on this green journey in a coordinated and collaborative way. And the key to creating awareness and common understanding is via clear communication and continual engagement within different quarters in the society and involving all levels. The discourse must not only remain here in Parliament, but more importantly, should continue in business fora, community workshops in schools, for example, and viewpoints and suggestions from different groups can then be heard and included into government policies, business practices, and community programs. And I trust that this members' motion and the YP paper on climate change would kickstart more public engagement and create greater awareness and understanding in our society. It has been said that justice must not be done, but must also be seen to be done. And similarly, if I may say so, climate mitigation steps must not only be taken, but also must be seen to be taken. There are quite a number of green initiatives already rolled out by the government, some corporates and private civil organizations and community groups. But we should ponder, besides our luscious greenery, would Singapore strike you as a particularly green, low-carbon society? With the COVID-19 pandemic, more single-use disposable plastic is used than ever as food and drinks containers in medications and more. We do a lot more food deliveries these days, and travel by private hire cars is growing in popularity. Stuck and unable to travel, people shop a lot more online, and many of these items include fast fashion, which will still be destined for our incinerators and landfills when they are no longer fashionable. Interestingly, even as we observe the above trends, we also see more people making the effort to be environmentally responsible, such as by reducing the use of plastic bags, repairing, recycling, and reusing, and even cutting down on the consumption of meat, another major contributor to carbon and methane emissions. So I urge the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment to continue with its public education efforts and collaboration with civil society groups to encourage Singaporeans and residents to make more green choices in their everyday lives. MSE has recently implemented the Green Action Community Plan, and the 15 PAP town councils have also started the Action for Green Town program to make our towns greener, zero waste, and energy efficient. These are excellent programs to rally communities to take action together, to keep our homes and our environment green. And compared to the potential in decarbonization in the industry sector, our individual actions may seem small and insignificant. However, such efforts are very important and necessary to nurture a green culture and a green mindset among our people. From the daily green efforts of individuals, these choices will affect bigger ones in an expanding circle of influence. And it is my hope that over time, being environmentally conscious and responsible will become a signature trait of a Singaporean. Finally, I would like to address the big question, which is the subtext of all climate-related discussion. Will we be okay? Will being a low-carbon society keep Singapore safe from climate change? Looking at extreme weather patterns and events that have befallen other countries recently, such as the floods in Malaysia, we must ask ourselves, will we be able to avert the climate crisis? These existential concerns bring us back to the fundamental question of why we are doing what we are doing. The truth is that there is no guarantee because human beings are dependent on one another. We are also affected by the actions taken by other nations. Will they be able to fulfill their pledges and follow up with implementation? Fortunately, we are not entirely defenseless. We are already proceeding with works such as the polder construction at Pulau Tekong and looking at other options to protect our coast. I hope the ministry is also considering the example of floating neighborhoods such as Waterbird in Amsterdam. Another example worth monitoring will be the proposed floating city off the coast of Busan in South Korea, a UN-backed project, which is expected to have its first platforms up by 2025. Strengthening our climate defense is expensive. A strong economy is the prerequisite to a strong defense, and we need to maintain our lead as a hub, especially as a financial center, so that we can afford to pay for climate mitigation infrastructure. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as I wrap up this motion, I would like to thank Minister Grace Fu and Minister Gan Kim Yong for listening to our concerns, for responding so positively to our proposals, and for their strong commitment in supporting this motion. And having heard the Ministry's new initiatives and blueprint to enhance green financing and corporate accountability and create green jobs for Singaporeans, I am assured that so long we stay committed to this green journey, we stand an excellent chance of staying ahead of the competition as we transition to a low-carbon economy, and we will leave no Singaporeans behind. Thank you.
There being no clarifications, allow me to put the question to the House. The question is that this House calls on the government to enhance green financing, create more green jobs, and strengthen corporate accountability in partnership with the private sector, civil society, and community to advance Singapore's inclusive transition towards a low-carbon society. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leader.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that Parliament do now adjourn to a date to be fixed.
The question is that Parliament do now adjourn to a date to be fixed. As many as are of the opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order.